So in this video we are going to be continuing to take a look at a scenario where civilization starts over. We are now on episode 33 of the series, and in the last episode we saw the conclusion and the peace treaty of the First World War. That war was a very major war, of course, being a world war, biggest war so far, and it completely changed a lot of things in the world. First of all, India is now a very, very strong country, almost as strong as Sweden. They have almost complete dominance over the Indian Ocean and a lot of trade routes throughout the world. That came, of course, with the complete fall off of Indonesia. The original Indonesian government has been kicked out over here to their colony in Alaska, and a fascist government has taken over the Indonesian mainland. Over in Europe, not much happened. We also did see some interesting shenanigans take place in the Middle East, and we're going to be building off with what happened in World War One a lot this episode. So if you do end up enjoying this video, please make sure to like and subscribe, and let's get straight into it. So the very first thing I want to talk about this episode is something that happened right after World War One. So after World War One ended, and every treaty was signed, drawing up the new borders of the world. There was some shady stuff going on behind the scenes. I did talk about this with Egypt, but that is not the only example of sort of shady stuff from outside powers we will be seeing. We'll be looking at that this episode. But there is some small events that need to take place. First of all, a very bad pandemic takes place shortly after the war. It comes from the Manchurian country right up here. It spreads down into Asia and it very badly affects Asia. It also makes its way over here into Europe. This will be known as the Manchurian flu. And it kind of screws everyone over. A lot of the soldiers that had returned from the war after fighting and being injured, they are very badly affected by this pandemic, and it kind of just screws up everything. Also, the world economy, it took a big hit after the war, and that is also something we will be looking at this episode. But the first thing we will be seeing is over here in Japan. This is something we haven't seen for a while, and it is going to be our daily Japan update. This, of course, hasn't been able to happen for a while because for most of history, well, most of recent history, the Japanese Isles have been occupied by China. But now, Tokyo got independence again and Hokkaido got their land back. And it's not going to be too long before these guys start scrapping. So, about a year and a half after the war, we're now in 1897. I think the war ended in 1895, I said so. We're in 1897, and these two are gearing up to go to war. So it starts off when Tokyo, who has always been sick that Hokkaido has been the one dominating the Japanese Isles, launches an invasion in. They quickly cross the border, and I'm not going to lie, Hokkaido was not expecting this, and Hokkaido is still having some issues setting up their government. With Tokyo, they kind of got lucky. They took over the regional government that was ruling over Chinese Japan, so they already have a very stable set up country down here. However, with Hokkaido, they only had Hokkaido and then their colonies up here after China invaded them. So this land down here, they're kind of having some trouble assimilating it. So Tokyo is able to absolutely storm into Hokkaido. They make a very large encirclement, a big blow for Hokkaido, and this kind of spells a big loss for them. They quickly move up and meet this major city right here. They then launch a very interesting naval operation from this little peninsula. It goes up and it lands on the southern tip of the Hokkaido island, cutting off short naval access, and it kind of leads to this area over here kind of falling over, and a small little rebellion takes place. These guys resemble a country that did once exist here a very long time ago, and they want their independence. So they will be taking this land, which has still kind of got its own regional identity, like I just said. And these Tokyo forces continue to move up and now reaching the capital of Hokkaido. They also make another very small landing right over here, and after this, Hokkaido is going to be forced to surrender. So that kind of sucks for Hokkaido. They only just got their land back, and now they've just been invaded again. So rip them, I guess. And let's take a look at this peace treaty. So in this peace treaty here, we can see the great expansion of Tokyo, and Hokkaido has lost a lot. Now, by a stroke of luck, they do manage to keep their colonies. So that is their Siberian one up here, and then this very small one in Alaska. To be honest, Tokyo really didn't see too much point in getting rid of these colonies, So that's a big win for them. Well, not really, because they did just lose a lot. But very unfortunate for them, so yeah. Okay, but next up, onto the economical stuff that I was talking about. Right, so after World War One, India, they had achieved their goal. They have now full dominance over the Indian Ocean and a lot of trade coming in and out of it. They have control over the strait here going into Mesopotamia. They have control over here to the access to the Indian Ocean from the Suez Canal, which has now been completed. They have control over the Strait of Malacca, and they have control over a lot of like islands in the southern region. So they're really dominating. And a thing that they're now trying to do, which is causing some tensions, you could say, is they are trying to make their currency, the Indian currency and the Indian economy, the top economy and currency in the world. They are planning to make their currency the currency of the world, sort of like the US dollar in real life, how it's kind of the currency of the world, but not really. They plan on spreading their currency to the world and having the world use their currency and having them as like the central like bank, I guess not really, but that they're like the central economy of the entire world. It's a very big plan. India, they are spreading their influence, like I've said, and they are going to be putting their plan in motion. And they kind of managed to take control of the stock markets and they begin to spread their currency very far throughout the world. And I will get back to this a little bit later in the episode, but right now, this is currently taking place and it will lead to something which I will talk about soon. But next up, we need to take a look at the alliance layer because something is going to be taking place here, and it has something to do with the Triangle Alliance. So, this Tamil country down here, they did not want to join in on the Triangle Alliance. They only really did because India gave them an ultimatum: either you join the Triangle Alliance or we invade you, because they knew that Indonesia was planning on invading them, which they could not let happen. So these guys will be making the decision to leave the Triangle Alliance, and this is something India does not like because, well, this obviously hurts their influence. But now we need to move on to the Americas because there is some stuff that is now beginning to take place. These American colonies are now extremely populated, like very populated. For instance, the most populated colony currently in the Americas is the Pyrenean, I guess, Floridian colony, like a big Florida. This currently has a population of about 30 million people. To put that into perspective, the mainland of Pyrenesia only has a population currently of about 10 to 15 million people. So, yeah, these guys are really starting to struggle to keep hold of it, and we are actually going to be seeing some colonies released. The first American colony to be getting their independence is an English colony, and it's a very big one. And that is going to be this extremely large claim right over here. This is a very big part of the English colony, and it will be given independence because they are struggling to manage it. They already have enough issues controlling this very large area over here, and this is kind of in the furthest reaches of their colony, so they will be getting their independence. I'm going to change the colour a little bit because I don't like that other one. But that is actually not going to be the only American colony getting their independence, because now we need to move over here to the Irish colony. And they will be letting go of this very large portion of their colony right here. Now they do keep control of the entrance into the Hudson Bay. I'm not too sure how useful this is considering the fact that it's probably frozen, but they do keep hold of that. This part of the English colony up here, this kind of like Newfoundland area, they also get their independence. And we are starting to see here really the end of colonization of the Americas. I guess this is also just like decolonization, I guess. I'm kind of running out of colours at this point. There isn't too many colours left to use, unfortunately. So I hope this looks okay. So first off, this... No, not that much. The 1 pixel every single time. It's just 1. So this part of the Chinese colony down here, this kind of southern region, they will be granted their independence. However, interestingly, China is actually going to be selling some of their colony, and they are going to be selling this portion of it over here over to the USB because they can't really maintain it anymore. But next up, we need to move over to Europe because some interesting stuff is going to be happening, and that is actually going to be a split in the Star Alliance. So Sweden brought the Star Alliance into World War One. And this kind of concerns a few of the members because it's very much showing how this alliance is just dominated by Sweden, and a lot of these nations in the alliance are starting to just feel like Sweden's puppets. This is especially true for Kola, as they are basically fully controlled by Sweden at this point. They wouldn't be able to exist without Sweden. But more specifically down here, where some nations are actually going to take control of themselves, and that is going to be Poland and Austria. These two leave the Star Alliance and form a defensive pact with one another, which I will be representing as this symbol on their border. But these guys leave the Star Alliance, and Sweden is not too happy about this at all. They feel like they're losing influence even more so than they did last episode, and yeah, this is very concerning for them. But now moving back over to India, they are going to be continuing their plan, which is to make themselves the dominant world economy. And something that they had set up in the peace treaty of World War One is now coming to effect. And this is basically an organization of nations throughout the world. And what this is basically they plan to make an organized world bank through this system. It's very similar to the League of Nations in real life, and they hope it will also ensure peace, because that war was not very good for the Indian economy, and they hope this will stop another one from happening. And this organisation is going to be known as the Global Cooperation League, also known as the GCL for short, and India is going to be using their very large influence to make a lot of nations join this, and like I said, it is very similar to the League of Nations in real life, so their goal is to stop wars and also have a centralised bank that, of course, India is going to control. So let's go ahead and see which nations join the GCL. I'll be representing the GCL members with a white star on their country. And yeah, anyway, let's go ahead and see which countries join the GCL. So these are the nations that join in on the first wave of joining on the GCL. These are the nations that join at its founding, and there are some very interesting things that are actually revealed through the founding of the GCL. So it is through the announcing of who is in the GCL. So first off, if we come over to Japan over here, it is revealed that Tokyo had actually been receiving funding from India during their war with Hokkaido, because they had agreed when they broke away from China to join in on the GCL, and this also is why this country here, who was released from Hokkaido, is in the GCL as well. Same thing with the Manchurian country. They had actually been working with India when they invaded the Sakhalin country, and they will be in the GCL as well, and they influenced these guys' new government to also join the GCL. So this has actually been a plan in the making for a very long time. Also, a lot of the countries that came out on the losing side of the First World War are forced into the GCL in the peace treaty, and some of these newer released nations, they were kind of binded to joining it. They're sort of like, they're not Indian puppets, but they are very influenced by India. Also, very interestingly, most of the nations are either Asian or African. We have one nation from other parts of the world joining, and that's actually France. They had worked with India in the war to invade Indonesia, and they wanted to get in on the GCL, so they'll be joining it just like so. But that is actually going to be it for this video. If you did enjoy, please make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.